What up? Your boy JGoodWithSports is back. Back from a week hiatus, but here back in the fold. This is November 1st. Man, last month, the month of sports. I deem October the month of sports because we got football, basketball, hockey, baseball, college football. Basically, it's the creme de la creme when it comes to the amount of sports happening at one time. But a couple things to note here. We're gonna start with Josh McDaniels. So, woke up this morning, early this morning. Come to find out, the Raiders finally let that man go. Josh McDaniels, the first coach fired of the 2023 NFL season. Man had a 9-16 record with the Raiders overall, 3-5 this year. But to be honest, are you surprised? Like, are we really surprised here? Josh McDaniels, his first stint with the Denver Broncos, that should have let people know right then and there. This man is not a leader of men. This man can't lead a football team. But yet, Mark Davis, he's like, yeah, let's give this man a chance. And it went downhill quick. First and foremost, you got rid of Derek Carr. The sole reason why Devontae Adams wanted to come and be a Raider was to play with his boy from college, Derek Carr. So you got rid of him. You bring in Jimmy Garoppolo, who you thought would probably lead this team to the postseason. The man looked like he needs to retire. He could barely stay healthy. Back injuries and all. He took a shot to the leg on Monday night. I was shocked that he even got up after that hit. But all in all, the offense looks abysmal. When the wide receivers in the first half of that game against Detroit on Monday night, when they haven't caught a single pass and all your passes are to running backs or tight ends, that's a problem. When you have Devontae Adams, who is arguably the best wide receiver in football, or you can definitely say top 5 for sure, and, he can't get the ball, but it doesn't help that, when he was targeted, he did drop 2 passes, but that's neither here nor there. Oh, just overall, man. Josh McDaniels wasn't it. I'm glad Mark Davis, actually made a sensible call and got rid of him. Antonio Pierce is the interim head coach. If I'm not mistaken, Antonio Pierce was a middle linebacker for the New York Giants in this league. And so I feel like he can, at least get these players to play a little harder. They might even buy into him a little bit here. The GM was also fired too, so got an interim GM as well, Champ Kelly. So at this point, that takes a little heat off my Bears. It takes a little heat off them. I know my Bears are not good at all, but I'm pretty sure the last 2 weeks for the Raiders did not help in Josh McDaniels' favor. Of course, Monday night, Detroit basically did what they wanted, and they still left points on the table. And then my Bears, with Agent Bajent, undrafted D2 player at quarterback, trounced them 30-12 in that game. So yeah, the past 2 weeks for the Raiders have not been good. Overall, Josh McDaniels does not need another head coaching job in this league. But, more times than not, a lot of, coaches under the Bill Belichick tree does not usually pan out well as head coaches in this league. So just something to, keep in mind going forward there. So, and also last thing I say, I know a couple of Raiders fans, they are very ecstatic about this move. One of them even, messaged me in our group thread this morning and basically pretty much made his day. So yeah, nevertheless, yeah, McDaniel's gone. So that's that. So we're gonna switch gears to basketball here because James Harden finally got moved. The last time I was on here, I pretty much said, why would anybody want to trade for James Harden? And I still feel that way. But nevertheless, the Clippers was the one team that was heavily rumored, and they actually pulled the trigger and got the deal done. So in this deal, the Clippers received James Harden, PJ Tucker, I'm going to butcher this name, Philip Preshchev. I don't know. Somebody that's probably not really going to play. The Sixers get Robert Covington, who was a former Sixer, so he's back there. Nicholas Batum, Marcus Morris, KJ Martin, the son of Kenyon Martin, an unprotected 2028 first-round pick of the Clippers, 2 second-round picks of the Clippers that year, a 2026 first-round pick from the Thunder, and a 2029 first-round swap with the Clippers. They choose to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, the 76ers won this trade by default. Absolutely crushed this trade. They definitely got a haul for James Harden. They definitely got a lot more in this deal that was rumored out there. Because about a week ago, I don't know if you all remember, they were saying that the Clippers turned down a deal that would have sent Terrence Mann, I think, 2 first-round picks for James Harden. Yeah, which I'm sitting here like that would have been ridiculous within itself. But no, the 76ers definitely got a lot of pieces here, a lot of depth. Tyrese Maxey's already been playing pretty darn well. Coach Joel Embiid. He's been Joel Embiiding this year in a good way. And, Daryl Morey and that organization trying to keep Joel Embiid happy so he can stay around, sign another extension, yada, yada, yada. So with this move, like the Sixers have options here. They can, play this thing out, see with the added depth here. You have some 3-and-D defenders returning off that trade in Covington and Nicholas Batum. KJ Martin is definitely a young player. Marcus Morris, he's a veteran who could defend as well and get you a couple of buckets here and there. So you definitely got a lot of force here. And you already had Tobias Harris. So you definitely got a lot of pieces right there. So you can, let it play out, see how it goes. You can definitely, reflip some of those pieces here for another star that can go along with Maxey and Embiid. Because as we know right now, in the Eastern Conference, the cream of the crop is the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm more on the Milwaukee Bucks side on that one when it's all said and done. But nevertheless, the road to the NBA Finals goes between either Beantown or Brewtown. So take your pick there. So yes, like I said, Sixers won the trade by default. That's for the Clippers. Look, man, this is James Harden's 4th team in 2 years. 1, 2, 3, 4. Clippers in 4 teams in 2 years. So, I mean, this man was on the Rockets 2 years ago. Then he got traded to the Brooklyn Nets. He kind of forced his way out of that ordeal because I guess maybe the Kyrie and the shot COVID situation, I don't know, ends up in Philadelphia with his guy Daryl Morey until this past summer he basically outed him in public in China, talking about Daryl Morey's a liar, blah blah blah, and now he's on the Clippers with Kawhi Leonard, with Paul George, with Russell Westbrook. And so these guys are Russell Westbrook and James Harden is reunited again. And so here's my thing. Like, and I said this before, James Harden, in my opinion, does not make any team better. James Harden, legacy is pretty much already cemented, in my opinion. I mean, individually, he's a good talent. Statistically, I mean, he could put up stats out of this world, especially in his prime. But the man does not make when he plays. The man is very selfish. A lot of times, the man, it seems like when there's a little adversity or something, he's quickly to run from it based on how these trades have always happened. So at this point, and also, I forgot the biggest one, doesn't show up when it counts the most. Because we saw it last year when the Philadelphia 76ers had a chance to go to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in the Embiid era to where they was up, in the fourth quarter of Game 6 when Jason Tatum was not hitting a darn thing, where the Sixers were basically looking at chops, and then all of a sudden, Jason Tatum hits a shot, hits a three, and ties turn really quick at the end of that fourth quarter. And then, of course, Game 7, pretty much, washed them in the second quarter up by 30. James Harden nowhere to be found. I don't even think that man scored 10 points in that game. So yeah. I mean, at this point, like between the pressure that's already been on the Clippers and James Harden, something it's now or never. It truly is. I mean, Kawhi Leonard's the only one on that team with a ring, and that was in Toronto in that magical season. But nevertheless, he got it done. I mean, not to mention he's also had a ring with the San Antonio Spurs, so he's a two-time champion. Paul George, I mean, we've seen him in his heyday in Indiana, go toe-to-toe with LeBron in the Eastern Conference Finals, but just couldn't get over the hump. The birth of playoff P, which was definitely a negative connotation for the longest time until he, figured that out recently here. He got the Clippers to the Western Conference Finals a couple of years ago without Kawhi Leonard, but nevertheless, like, there's a lot of pressure on this team. Russell Westbrook has actually been a good addition to this team for the most part. So we know there's a lot of ball-dominant players within this quadruple effect here. So I guess we're going to see if these guys can make it work. Are they willing? Are all willing to buy in and make it work? Or are we still going to have a couple of egos out here always wanting the ball, demanding the ball, huff and puff when they don't get the ball? I mean, I can definitely see James Harden doing that off bat. I can definitely see that. But, we going to see how this plays out because there's a lot at stake here. Either, the Clippers, get to the Western Conference Finals, maybe knock on the door of the NBA Finals, or this thing going to blow up and be a first-round exit, and a lot of turmoil is going to happen. And the roster gets disintegrated in offseason. That's where we're at. So we're going to see how this plays out. And then I'm going to switch gears again to the NFL trade deadline that passed yesterday, 4 o'clock Eastern time. There was a few deals that happened yesterday. First and foremost, my Chicago Bears, first deal of the day. They traded for defensive end Montez Sweat from the Commanders. We got a second-round pick. So yeah, initially, the initial thoughts was, did the Bears not learn their lesson from Chase Claypool last year? They gave up a second-round pick for a guy that was winless in his Bear tenure. And basically this time around with this one here, the Bears addressed the need at defensive end. He was not generating any sacks between Agwankwe and Walker. They had 5 sacks total. Sweat comes in with 6.5 sacks by himself. The man has 32 tackles on the year. The man is solid. Montez Sweat is solid. And definitely the best, pass rusher that we have statistically on the Bears team at this moment. Now, the monkey wrench in all of this, which, things can definitely go south, is the fact that Sweat is on the last year of his deal. The Bears traded for him. As of right now, there's no contract extension done at all. So this is how you can get fired quick, right? You give up a second-round pick for the second straight year, which would potentially could be a top 40 pick in this draft. You give that up for a player who's solid. Who is solid. Don't get me wrong. He's a solid player and definitely is an upgrade to our defensive line. But like I said, he's on the last year of his deal and there's no contract extension announced. So if you want to lose your job quick, yeah, go ahead and let this man not get a deal done and then go into free agency and he walks off elsewhere. and then we just traded for a player, um, for 9 games as a rental for a team that's 2-6 and that's not going anywhere this year. Oh yeah, that's how you lose your job. Kevin Warren, the president of the Bears. Oh yeah, he would fire Ryan Poles expeditiously, as my guy Mr. Clark said from Lean on Me. So nevertheless, there's risk with this deal. But I would imagine, I would have to imagine, they have the intent on getting this deal done as soon as possible, and hopefully today. At the press conference, if the press conference is today, they announced that yeah, he signed to a 4-year blah 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 extension. Cool. At that point, we're good, because this is definitely a long-term move for my Bears. But as we know, the front office historically with this team has not made the best decisions at all. But I am, a little hopeful here. As far as the Commanders, apparently this is one of those like, yeah, we're just gonna mail it in. We're done. Sell off our assets. I mean, the best part of the Commanders for the last couple of years was their defensive line. I think they had, if I'm not mistaken, 4 first-round picks on that line. They all was pretty productive, in my opinion. Pretty much. So when we actually beat the Commanders this year, I was pretty much stunned that Justin Fields was only sacked 3 times in that game, and we sacked Sam Howell about 5 or 6. So for a team that really pretty much at that point lacked pass rush, and I'm pretty sure my Bears entering that game was dead last in the league in sacks. So yeah. So at the time of the deal, I'm like, okay, well, it can't be any worse than Chase Claypool. Let's get the extension done ASAP and let's keep it moving. And then you hear that not too long later that Chase Young, Sweat's former teammate at this point, got traded to the 49ers for a 3rd-round pick. So that definitely left a lot of Bears fans puzzled, including myself initially, and until I thought about it. So Chase Young, the former 2nd overall pick out of Ohio State, stellar college career, sensational talent. Joins a 49ers team, which, in the last couple of weeks or so, their defense has struggled. And it's funny because I pretty much said like a few weeks ago, probably about 3 weeks ago at this point, when I said the 49ers are in a class of their own. I feel like I jinxed them, because ever since I said that defense went downhill. I pretty much watched empty calorie Kirk Cousins dice them up on Monday Night Football like 9 days ago. And I am saddened by Kirk Cousins' Achilles injury, but we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, Chase Young, who a lot of people view as a better player than Sweat, ends up going for a 3rd-round pick as opposed to my Bears giving him a 2nd-round pick. But there's a lot more risk with Chase Young than Sweat. So the Commanders view Chase Young as undisciplined, as a guy who's looking to make splash plays as opposed to doing what's needed to be done. So that's a red flag within itself. I'm a fan of Chase Young. I wanted the Bears to go get Chase Young. I didn't mind Sweat, but I wanted the Bears to go get Chase Young too. But also, another red flag that people may overlook is the fact that Chase Young had the ACL injury, and there was another injury associated along with that when he tore his ACL. He only played, if I'm not mistaken, 12 games between 21 and 22 between those years. Right now in the season, he has, if I'm not mistaken, 5 sacks and 15 tackles, which, I mean, matches the sack total between the 2 guys I mentioned earlier for the Bears. But like I said, it comes with higher risk. One, is he actually going to do what needs to be done for the greater good of the team and not try to look out for himself with those splash plays? 2, can he stay healthy? Because, yeah, Chase Young definitely, in my opinion, has a higher ceiling than Sweat. But Sweat has been more consistent, has been more durable in that same time. So 49ers, I guess, could afford to take that risk because, I mean, you got Bosa, you got Hargrave, you got Fred Warner, you got all these guys, Armstead. You got a sensational front seven and a defensive line within itself. So you just basically the rich get richer on that one because they can afford to take that risk because they are, without a doubt, a Super Bowl contender. Yeah, they went through a little rough patch here, but which team doesn't? But nevertheless, they can afford to take that risk. I'm not sure the Bears could afford to take that risk if they gave a second round pick for Chase Young and he comes in and does the same thing or gets hurt and can't play the rest of this. Then you'll be questioning Ryan Poles even more than this trade here with Sweat. So we got that element going on. So something to look out for between Young and Sweat, and see how the rest of the season and the rest of the next couple of years go between the two. I mentioned earlier, Kirk Cousins dumped off. No more so. Kirk Cousins Achilles injury, in that game against the Packers. And yeah, I joke about the man calling them empty calories, and rightfully so, because normally more times than not, this man puts up meaningless stats. And I had a former coworker told me Kirk Cousins is good enough just to lose you a game. And I see what he's talking about. I get it. I 110% understand what he meant by that. But nevertheless, I never wish injury on anybody. But before the injury, I felt like the Vikings had a backdoor chance to get into the playoffs. They started off rough. I think 1-4. They had won 3 straight. They're 500 now. Justin Jefferson, he should be coming off IR here pretty soon. The emergence of Jordan Addison, he's been sensational for that team. The first round pick out of USC. KJ Osborne, who's been there for a couple years, is pretty solid in his role. When they brought on Cam Akers, he looked like he's about to take over that running back spot over Addison. He's been a great addition for them. Kevin O'Connell has done a good job of keeping his team competitive. The defense isn't the best, but they play better as of late too. So with all that being said, it was like they're at the crossroads of this season. Do you just, let it go? Or do you make a move? And apparently they made a move for Josh Dobbs, who the Cardinals had decided to bench right after that game because they have another quarterback starting, a rookie quarterback. I can't even think of his name right now, but they benched him. They benched Dobbs for him as Kyler Murray is set to come back here in the very near future. And so the Vikings saw that he was available. So the Vikings sent the 6th round pick for Dobbs and a 7th round pick from the Cardinals. So Josh Dobbs, I feel like he's definitely not Kirk Cousins. Like I said, I make fun of Kirk Cousins calling him empty calories, but Kirk Cousins is still a productive quarterback in this league. Josh Dobbs isn't that, but I feel like Josh Dobbs can manage the ship here. Josh Dobbs can still make this offense productive. If he was able to keep the Cardinals competitive for the most part of this year, even when I thought they shouldn't have been, then I feel like he can pretty much do the same, if not a little bit better, for the Minnesota Vikings. So that's a team within my division I'm very familiar with. So we will see how this shapes out here. So I'm gonna definitely keep an eye on that. And then the other deal of the deadline was Joe Douglas, the corner from the Packers. He goes to the Bills along with a 5th round pick. The Packers receive a 3rd round pick in this year's draft. The Bills defense, who is without Tre'Davious White again, he's out for the rest of the year. I'm pretty sure his injury was an Achilles injury. That man can't catch a break, so they had a need at corner. Their 1st round pick at corner. Right now, I can't think of his name, but he's not getting the job done. So they traded for a guy that could pretty much fit their scheme, a guy that within that division in that conference, they need someone else to go against the likes of Tyreek Hill or Jamar Chase or someone when it comes down to it. So they did what they had to do. So I'm not mad at it. So yeah, nevertheless, it's been a really good month of October. I know we're now in November. The World Series going on, Game 5 tonight. We're gonna see how that plays out between the Rangers and the Diamondbacks. My Bulls. It's either they're good or they're bad. Something has to give here. In this regime for sure. This is now or never moment as well. But yeah, nevertheless, I'll be back with you all next week. You all have a good one. Stay safe. But until next time, peace.